as I know. Oh no, we
I
got
think
one
there are
more
two.
question.
I think there are two more. I think.
Yeah, Mikhail is asking about Mikhail Bosharov, our man in Russia,
Hmm.
from Russia with aardvarks. Dave, how did you feel when the 300th issue went to the printers and then went to the comic shops? Have you felt the completeness of a gigantic undertaking in your life? Was it sad for you to say goodbye to the aardvark? No, it was. By that time, I was so universally hated that it was, in terms of a real world experience, which is where you get into, how did that feel? It's no, I've been made to not exist. Cerebus has been made to not exist. I don't think that's sustainable in the long term. But here I am, December 2003. I finished my part of Cerebus. A month later, Gerhard had finished his part. Now it's, got to fill up the back of the issue. Now it's got to go to Prenny. Now Pete Dixon is coming down from Paradise Comics to witness Gerhard and I signing all of the Dave Sim file copies so that they can be CGC graded. All of them signed on the day that Cerebus 300 came out. And it was, when you're canceled, and particularly when you're canceled by feminists in our society, it just puts you in a non-existent state of, I don't feel, because there's really nothing to feel. I'm just, I've been expelled from society, and I'm getting more and more expelled from society. I'm not vaccinated. I won't wear a mask. So it's like, how much of a subhuman can we make Dave Sim into so that he understands we do not approve of him and he is not allowed to join in any of our reindeer games? It's like, well, okay, I know what Cerebus is. I know how hard it was to do. I have a pretty good idea of when I was getting all of the ball, as they say in baseball, so that, you're hitting ground rule doubles, and every once in a while, a towering shot straight away to center field.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, 20 years ago. So I'm pretty confident, yes, this is a substantial work. And I just happen to live in this completely psychotic society that thinks that it can make that not exist because it isn't Marxist feminist propaganda, that it doesn't agree with feminists. So it was, that hasn't really changed since 2004. It's still, no one is allowed to mention Dave Sim. No one is allowed to say positive things about Dave Sim. And well, okay, I don't think that's going to work out for you. But it's the reason that although I have done this, enormously complicated and intricate work, and done it, I would say, pretty successfully, I could do a swordfish Pieces of Turtles 8 on Please Hold for Dave Sim, and we'll be lucky if 10 copies get ordered or 20 copies get ordered. It's there's a complete disconnect there, but what it really comes down to for me personally is don't applaud, throw money. And, you can only go so far with that. It's like, no, Dave, you have a readership of this size that's mostly made up of extremely intelligent, erudite, well-read, poor people who don't have $25 to spend on a comic book. They wish that they did. If they had $25, it would be yours.
I don't know about that, Dave. I mean, I look at some of Hobbs's Kickstarters for, Swords of Cerberus in Hell, a question mark, and, those hardcovers aren't cheap, but, those Kickstarters are fairly successful. I mean, they don't make, like, tons of money, but they kind of, there's still money enough to, like, go into the next Kickstarter, I should say. I don't know. I mean, it's just...
Right, but I think even you and everybody else has to admit that there's a large gap between what Cerebus is and what rewards it brings in.
Yeah.
When you're 65 years old and it's still, a third of my day is made up of, okay, what can I sell now?
Mm-hmm.
Because if I don't sell stuff, then it is, okay, I can't preserve the Cerebus archive.
Mm-hmm.
I've got to sell the Cerebus archive in order just to keep the whole thing rolling along and keep it from getting devoured by somebody like Disney or Microsoft.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, okay, it's one of those, Kickstarters are great, but Kickstarters do take time.
Mm-hmm.
That I could be working on Strange Death of Alex Raymond,
mm-hmm.
but no, what are people going to give me the most amount of money for? Because there's just no money in Strange Death of Alex Raymond. I mean,
mm-hmm.
maybe there will be, it's just starting. I'm just starting to get checks from Sean Robinson. So it's like, again, the contrast of, 54,000 or whatever it was comes
mm-hmm.
in on the Strange Death of Alex Raymond Kickstarter. And so far, I've gotten a check for $3,000 and a check for $1,000, and checks 3 and 4 are going to be put together, and those are going to be for $2,000. And it's like, yeah, definitely, that's every week, but
mm-hmm.
for how long?
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I can't be sitting there going, okay, this is it. I'm going to be making, at least $2,000 a week for the rest of my life. It's like, I really don't think so.
Yeah.
When you're canceled, and you're going to spend the rest of your life trying to figure out ways to make relatively small amounts of money because you're just not considered in the category of this person needs to be financially rewarded to the same extent of what it is that he gave us for 26 years.
Yeah, and it doesn't seem like a fair trade. I mean, you got me there.
Okay, and the same thing with the hardcovers. It's like I'm very happy that Benjamin and Laura are doing the hardcovers, but mostly because they send me a check for $4,000 for their side of the printing bill, because the hardcovers are more expensive to print, and they're piggybacking on the trade paperback. So it's like, okay, now I'm breaking even on Swords of Cerebus in Hell, the trade paperbacks, instead of losing money.
Mm-hmm.
And because it's, they're doing hardcovers. I'm not interested in doing hardcovers. I'm not a hardcovers guy.
Yeah.
So consequently, I'm just getting a royalty from them for whatever the sales are on the hardcovers, like 4%, which is, the same that I pay Gerhard when I bring one of the trade paperbacks back into print. So it's one of those, there's that much money coming in on the Swords of Cerebus Kickstarter, hardcover Kickstarter, but in terms of the check, I already got $4,000 for their half of the printing bill, and I'll get another $500 or $600, which is my royalty as the guy who created the material.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, well, okay, it's every little bit helps, and I'm grateful that I'm making a living at age 65 in the middle of COVID-19. But we're not talking kidney-shaped swimming pool time.
Jacuzzi.
Yeah, my mansion in the Hamptons. Which one am I going to? Am I going to the one in the Laurentians or the Hamptons? It's always a tough decision because the private airplane is sitting on the tarmac, and I just have to tell the pilot which one I'm going to, and that's the one I go. It's like let's have some perspective on how successful this is in quotation marks in conventional successful terms, and B, why it's in that category. And I'm putting that blame right at the doorstep of feminism.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That unless I had been canceled in 1994 and then canceled even more severely in 2002, presumably I would not be in this situation. I would probably not have Elon Musk's level of money, but I would be, let's say, closer to Neil Gaiman, Jeff Smith, Alan Moore, Frank Miller. You just don't exist as a human being anymore. Be grateful that you can afford your dollar store tuna, that kind of thing.
No, I think those names, like, I think they owe a lot to you, personally. I'm sure, yeah. So I think that's a totally reasonable argument, that and a totally reasonable opinion. I think, your name belongs up there on the Mount Rushmore, if you will, of, independent creators and comics creators, period, in my opinion. But that's just me. Yeah.
Well, there you go. That's one of those. I try not to, really make an issue of it because it's like, okay, now as giving equal weight to Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, I do understand the difference between materialism and non-materialism. So, it's one of those things of, certainly for years, it was like, okay, I just missed out on getting Kevin Eastman's money. The Turtles got that amount of money, and Cerebus should have gotten that. But it's like, that money didn't make Kevin or Peter particularly happy.
Yeah.
More problems in their lives than it solved, and that doesn't change once that takes hold. So it's like, I'm looking for a Goldilocks spot.
Yeah.
Somewhere between the amount of money that completely destroys your life and the amount of money where you have to stick with the dollar store tuna because I have no idea what I'm going to be making a living at in March. I'm just working on the stuff that I'm going to be selling these last 100 or 200 people in January. Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay,